Hello everyone, this is Dr. Muhammad Ibrar and welcome back. Today we are diving into business and the cost of productions. That's a chapter 9 in microeconomics. So this chapter dwells a crucial cost concepts that are foundational for analyzing the four basic market models in upcoming chapters, chapter 10, 11, 12 and so on. So we will explore these exciting topics in three insightful parts. Today, in the first part, I'll explain the short-run production relationships, focusing on how production functions in the short term and the relationship between inputs and the outputs. Next, in future video, in part 2, I will untangle the various types of the cost that businesses face in the short run, including the fixed cost, variable cost, and the total cost in short-run production cost. Finally and lastly, in the third part, I will delve into a long run production cost where all inputs are variable and analyze economies and diseconomies of scale. So let's kick off with a deep dive into a short run production relation as well as economic versus accounting cost. Economic cost. The payment that must be made to obtain and retain the services of a resources encompasses both explicit and implicit cost. Explicit costs are a direct, out of the pocket expenditure that involves a monetary outlay, such as wages, rent of the building, and the materials, the cost for the raw materials. So these costs are clearly documented in financial statement and reflect the actual cash spent on to acquire the necessary resources for the production. Meanwhile, the implicit cost, on the other hand, represents the opportunity cost associated with using a resource owned by the firm itself or the person itself. This includes the value of the next best use of these resources, which could be the potential income the firm's foregone or foregoes for not developing them elsewhere. For example, if a business owner used their own building for operations, so the implicit cost would be the rental income they could have earned if they had leased the building to another tenant. So the implicit cost also include a normal profit, which is the minimum earning necessary to keep the entrepreneurs engaged in the current businesses instead of shifting to an alternative venture. So the normal profit reflects the opportunity cost of the owner's time, the capital in their current use, ensuring that all resources are adequately compensated. So together, explicit and implicit costs from the total economic cost are utilizing resources. That's guiding the firms in making informed decisions about resource allocation and profitability. If we talk about economic profit, that's also known as a pure profit. So that represents the total revenue of a firm minus all cost, both explicit and implicit. So explicit costs are the direct out of pocket, as we discussed, expense as a firm incurs, such as wages, rent, and raw material cost. And meanwhile, the implicit, on the other hand, includes the opportunity cost of the resources owned by the firm, such as owner's time or capital invested in the businesses, etc. So importantly, economic profit accounts for these implicit costs and include a normal profit. That's which is the minimum return necessary for the entrepreneurs to stay in the business. So this normal profit represents the opportunity cost of the entrepreneur's capital and efforts and the benchmark for sustaining the operation in given market. Because economic profit deducts implicit cost, it is typically smaller than the accounting profit. Accounting profit is calculated as total revenue minus only the explicit cost and does not consider the implicit cost. So therefore, while accounting profit provides a measure of the financial performance based on the observable transactions, so economic profit offers a more comprehensive assessment by incorporating a true opportunity cost of all the resources employed in the production. So that's why understanding and the distinction between these two types of profit is very crucial for accurately evaluating the firm's financial performance and making informed business decisions. When we are analyzing the business's profitability, it is essential to distinguish between economic profit and accounting profit. As we discussed in the previous slide, economic profit considers a comprehensive view of cost and is defined as difference between total revenue and economic cost. So economic cost is consist of implicit cost and explicit cost. Explicit costs are direct, as we know, the out of the pocket expense such as wages, rent, and raw materials, and implicit cost on the other hand represents the opportunity cost. So, for instance, if an entrepreneur invests their own capital into the businesses, the implicit cost is the foregone interest or return they could have earned by investing elsewhere. So, additionally, economic profit accounts for a normal profit, which is the minimum return necessary to keep in entrepreneurs in the particular industry. On the other hand, accounting profit is a simpler and is a calculated as total revenue minus the explicit cost only. So it does not consider the opportunity cost. So therefore, while a business may show a positive accounting profit, it might still have a negative economic profit in the implicit cost, and the normal profit exceeds the accounting profit. So that's why we have to compare, we have to understand this concept, and the economists assess these true profitability and efficiency of resources allocation within the firm. In production analysis, the short run and long run represents a distinction period with different characteristics regarding input flexibility and production adjustment. Like in short run, businesses operate with a mix of fixed and the variable resources. So the production capacity or the plant sizes remain fixed, meaning it cannot be altered in that during that time period. So during this period, the firms can adjust only some inputs, such as the labor or the raw material, to respond to the changes in the production level or the market demand. So this results the fixed cost and the variable cost, where the fixed costs remain constant regardless of output, and the variable costs fluctuate with the level of production. Meanwhile, in the long run, all inputs are variable. So this allows the firms to make more significant adjustment, include altering the plant size or the production capacity. In this period, firms have a flexibility to scale operations up or down and can fully optimize their resources allocation. They can also enter or exit the industry based on the market conditions or competitive dynamics or profitability expectations. Consequently, long run analysis help in understanding economies of scale, where increasing the size of the operation can lead to lower the average cost, and diseconomies of scale, where further expansion may be increased cost. In short run uh, production relations in short run highlight how labor inputs related to the outputs. So here we have a certain concepts like the total product, marginal product, and average product. The total product represents the overall quantity of the goods produced by a firm. This metric reflects the aggregate output resulting from a given level of input. It can be labor while keeping the other inputs constant. Meanwhile, the marginal product is an additional output produced when an extra unit of labor is hired or employed. So calculated as the change in total product resulting from one unit increase in the labor. So the marginal product provide insight into the productivity of additional labor and help identify the point at which adding more labor may lead to diminishing the returns. And lastly, the average product on the that measures the output produced per unit of the labor, computed by dividing the total product by the quantity of the labor employed. Average product gives an overview of the efficiency of labor usage in producing the goods. So understanding these relations to optimize their labor input and enhance the productivity, as they directly influence decisions related to hiring and production scaling in short run. The most important concept here, that's a law of diminishing returns. As successive increments of a variable resources are added to a fixed resource, the marginal product of the variable resources will decrease. So essentially, the fixed plant gets overcrowded with variable resources. If we focus on labor only being the variable resource, when there isn't any labor, then the plant is underused because none of the machinery is being used without the labor. When hiring one unit of labor, the machinery is still underused. There is a machinery that is often idle, as that one unit of labor has to perform all the tasks. So as the firm continue to hire more and more labor, the total productivity is rising by increasing the amount of of the labor, because the machinery is being used more and more to its capacity. However, at some certain point, there will be no much labor, that the fixed resources are overutilized and individual will have to wait to use the necessary equipment. This is the point where we might see the diminishing marginal return, where the total productivity is still increasing when hiring one more unit of labor, but it does not increase as much as it did with the previous unit of the labor. So the table in the next slide, that presents a numerical example of law of diminishing returns. Look at this table. You can see that the first total product is rising at an increasing rate. So the marginal productivity is positive here. This is called the increasing marginal returns. When the total productivity continue to increase, but by a smaller and smaller amount, this is called diminishing marginal returns. It can be shown here. So here you can see the total productivity is increasing, but with the decreasing rate. That's why the marginal productivity is a positive value, but it's decreasing. Every extra labor is producing less than the previous one. That's why that's called diminishing marginal rate of returns. So when the firm has hired so many workers that it is overcrowded and impairs the worker's ability to produce, so the total productivity start to fall and the marginal productivity becomes negative later on. So the average product, if we can see, starts out increasing due to the increasing marginal return. Then at some point, average product will begin to fall as results of effect on diminishing marginal return. It takes average product longer to reflect the diminishing marginal returns. If you can see this diagram of the total product, in the upper diagram, in the lower diagram, we have the average product and the marginal product. So the law of diminishing return states, as the variable resources is added to the fixed amount of other resources, the total product, that result which eventually increase by diminishing amount, reach at a maximum and then start declining, as we can observe in the upper diagram. On x-axis we have taken the output, on y-axis we have the productivity. Output means the labor, that how many labor we are hiring, and on y-axis we have the output 10, 20 and 30. So as the input variable input like labor is increasing, the total product is increasing first with the increasing rate. That's called economies of scale, or that's a increasing law of returns. So Again, if we are moving in a second part where the total product is increasing but with the decreasing rate, that's a diminishing returns, and the total product will start declining later on. So if we can relate with the marginal product and the total product, marginal product is a change in the total product associated with each new unit of the labor, and average product is simply the output per labor unit. So note that the marginal product intersects the average product at the maximum average product. So you can see when the total product was increasing with the increasing rate, that time the marginal product was increasing every extra input, every extra hired a labor. So the movement when the marginal product started declining, the total product was increasing but with the decreasing rate. So the movement when the total product reached to the maximum, that time the marginal product was zero, and when the total product start declining, the marginal product becomes negative. That's all for today's lecture. If you have any question, comment or feedback, feel free to share them in the comment section below. Also, if there are specific topics you would like me to cover in future lectures, just mention them in the comment section. Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more informative lectures and learning content. Thank you for being a part of this virtual gathering. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring.